Johnny.
You're still afraid.
Stop it now, I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
Alright, so Hour of Devastation has added some really powerful zombie tribal cards to the format, and it's made a budget zombie deck a lot more viable. The biggest one is Lord of the Accursed, a zombie lord, which is a big deal for a budget deck because it's actually an uncommon zombie lord. So Lord of the Accursed is a 3-mana 2/3 that gives other zombies +1/+1, and then it has an activated ability where it can tap itself, pay 1 and a black, and all zombies gain minutes until the end of the turn. So right here with Lord of the Accursed, you can basically see the entire idea behind our deck. We're going to play lords like Death Baron, which is a 3-mana lord that's a 2/2, gives all our zombies +1/+1 and Death Touch, which is actually a really big boon to give all of our creatures Death Touch. Super good in a lot of matchups. Lilliana's Devotee, which is sort of a zombie lord. It gives zombies +1/+0, so it doesn't buff their toughness, but it does buff their attack. So we're only running a couple of these to give us, like, basically we got 10 lords here. We got between 4 copies of Death Baron, 4 copies of Lord of the Accursed, and 2 copies of Lilliana's Devotee. We basically have 10 lords-ish. Lilliana's Devotee is another newish card out of Core Set 2021, and it has an additional ability where if a creature died during our turn, on our end step, we can pay 2 mana and make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So typically that'll be like if we swing in with a bunch of our creatures, maybe they all have Death Touch, so they're kind of trading with bigger creatures than them. If any creatures died, we can just sort of hang back, not cast any spells, and just make some tokens with Devotee. So it's our weakest lord, but it's still pretty good. And then the other kind of zombie lord in our deck is Crypt Breaker, which isn't a lord in the traditional sense. It doesn't give creatures +1/+1, but it is so key to our deck working. It is the best card in our deck by a pretty wide margin, I think. So Crypt Breaker is a 1-mana 1/1 zombie, and it has 2 activated abilities. You can pay 2 mana, discard a card, and then create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So this is really great because it means if we're flooding out, if we just draw a bunch of lands, we are a 21 land deck, so we're not going to draw too many lands typically, but sometimes we're just going to draw a bunch of lands, and this Crypt Breaker basically gives us a payoff for what to do with those lands. We can just start making zombies. But more importantly, Crypt Breaker has the ability to tap 3 zombies we control to draw a card and lose 1 life. So it's really, really powerful to have this card draw engine in our tribal aggro deck. It means we can just keep spitting out creatures, keep drawing cards. It doesn't even matter if those creatures have summoning sickness. We don't have to wait until they can actually tap themselves, because Crypt Breaker's activated ability taps them as part of its cost. So if we play Crypt Breaker turn 1, if we play Lazotep Reaver turn 2, which gives us 2 zombies, we can immediately tap Crypt Breaker and those 2 zombies to draw a card. We don't have to wait till we untap and they're not summoning sick, so we can go off to the races right away. So that's one of the stronger combos in our deck, going like Crypt Breaker turn 1, Lazotep Reaper turn 2, draw a card, turn 3, play one of our lords, crash in for a bunch of damage, or play a bunch more 1-drops, get in with our creatures that are not summoning sick, and draw cards with our creatures that are summoning sick. So it just allows us to continually take advantage of our creatures and recover from wraths, and it can just sometimes give us a lot more gas than other tribal decks. And so the rares that we're running are 4 Crypt Breakers, 4 Death Barons, and 2 Thoughtseizes. And Thoughtseize technically isn't really necessary for this deck. If you wanted to cut down the budget a bit more, you could take out these Thoughtseizes, but Thoughtseize is probably the best card in the historic format, and it's just really, really, really strong. Being able to like snipe a Wrath out of our opponent's hand can very often just win us the game. So if you have the Thoughtseizes, definitely run them. They're not technically necessary for this deck, but they're very, very, very good, and they're really worth spending the wild cards on because, I mean, you're just not going to get better than Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is the best discard spell back in Modern, right? It's not going to get better than this ever, so you're never going to get it like outpaced by some other spell. So Thoughtseize is just a fantastic card. I'm not going to skip running it. Besides that, we basically just have a lot of things that pay off our lords and our Crypt Breakers. We have Diagraph Ghoul, which is a 1-mana 2/2, a really good aggressive body for our aggressive tribal deck. We have Festering Mummy, another new card out of Amonkhet, which is a 1-mana 1/1, and when it dies, you put a -1/-1 counter on a target creature. So this can make Festering Mummy like really hard to block. Opponent has like a Llanowar Elves in the battlefield. It's basically a 2-for-1. It's going to trade for whatever blocks it if we give it like Death Touch with Death Baron. And it's just another good 1-mana zombie body for us to take advantage of with our Crypt Breaker and our lords. We have 2 copies of Foulmire Knight, which on its front half is just a 1-mana 1/1 death touching zombie for us, which is just a pretty good aggressive body. Can trade with more powerful threats due to its death touch, and it's just another 1/1 zombie for our Crypt Breakers. And also it has the ability Profane Insight, so we can pay 3 mana, draw a card, lose 1 life, and put it in the Adventure Zone. So In most decks that run Foul Mire Knight, you usually want to get this ability off. You want it to be kind of a 2-for-1. You want to be able to draw the card and then play it, but a lot of times we're just going to play Foul Mire Knight as a 1/1 death-touching zombie because we are trying to be aggressive. We do just have a lot of payoffs for it just being a zombie body on the battlefield, so we don't necessarily need to get that off, but it is nice to have that as an option. And then we have one copy of Lilliana Stewart, which is just kind of an experimental one. I'm not actually sure how good this card is. It is a 1/2 body for 1, so bigger than a lot of our other 1-mana zombies. It becomes a 2/3 with a lord on the battlefield, then a 3/4, so that's a pretty good body to get aggressive with. It can attack through stuff like Elena War Elves without trading, stuff like that. It also has the ability to tap itself, sacrifice itself, and make a target opponent discard a card, which can be good sometimes. We get our opponent low on resources, maybe we Thoughtseize them, we can snipe the final card out of our opponent's hand. So it's kind of a combo with Thoughtseize. If our opponent has 2 cards in hand, we can go like Thoughtseize one of them, make them discard the other with Lilliana Stewart, so they're just completely empty-handed. It's also kind of a combo with Liliana's Devotee, because we can sacrifice the Steward, and that means the creature died during our turn, and we can make a 2/2 zombie. And then also it's kind of a combo with Eternal Taskmaster, which is our other 2-mana zombie besides Last Reaver. Eternal Taskmaster enters the battlefield tapped. It's a 2/3 for 2, so pretty good stats. And whenever it attacks, we can pay 3 mana, and if we do, return a creature card from our graveyard to our hands. So potentially with Taskmaster, we can be discarding multiple cards with Steward. A Taskmaster just allows us to get back cards too. If our opponent has removal for a Crypt Breaker, we can pull it back. We can pull back Lords and replay them. So Taskmaster is just a good way to kind of grind out some more card advantage in more grindy games. But really where Taskmaster shines is with the real true key card of our deck, which is Gem Palm Polluter. So Gem Palm Polluter is a 6-mana 4/3 zombie. Bad, right? We don't want to be actually casting this card. If we're ever actually casting a Gem Palm Polluter, we're probably already lost, right? It might happen once in a blue moon, but we pretty much never want to be casting a 6-mana 4/3. But it has a very powerful cycling ability. So for 2 black mana, we can cycle it, which means we discard it and then draw a new card off the top of our deck. And whenever we cycle Gem Palm Polluter, we can have target player lose life equal to the number of zombies on the battlefield. So this means having Gem Palm Polluter at our 2-drop slot down here, this means we really don't have to kill our opponent with our aggressive plan. We just need to hit them a couple times. We need to get in some early damage, get in, play a Last Reaver plus a Lord, hit them for like 4, 5, 6, get them down to, 8, 7, 6 life, and then we can just burn them out with our Gem Palm Polluters as the final points of damage. So Gem Palm Polluter allows us to have some reach, which is really powerful in a tribal aggro deck, especially because we can kind of draw into it with Crypt Breaker. If the board stalls out, if our opponent locks down the board with a bunch of big creatures that we can't get through, we can just sit back with Crypt Breaker, draw a bunch of cards, keep playing zombies, drawing cards with our Crypt Breakers, drawing into our Gem Palm Polluters, and even if the board's clogged up, we can eventually just get up to 10 zombies, Gem Palm Polluter them in the face, and kill them. And kind of sneakily, Gem Palm Polluter counts zombies on both sides of the battlefield. So one of the best cards in the format right now is Field of the Dead. So Field of the Dead is probably the most played card in the format right now. Very, very powerful. It is a land that comes into play tapped. It taps for colorless mana, but if you have 7 or more different lands in the battlefield, you get to make zombies every time a land enters the battlefield. So the strongest deck in the format is all built around Field of the Dead, basically just ramping and nothing else, right? Because when you have Field of the Dead, you don't need to actually have a finisher. You don't need a game plan. You just play the Field of the Dead, ramp out a bunch of lands, and just everything you draw is good, right? If you draw a ramp spell, well, that's another land on the battlefield, you get to make more zombies. If you just draw a land off the top of your deck, well, that's okay too. You get to play the land, make the zombies. So that's what the most played deck in the format is right now, the strongest deck in the format, and we just have an I win the game card against that with Gem Palm Polluter, because they're typically making like 8, 9, 10 zombies, so all we have to do is get in some early damage. Then even if they wrath us, get rid of all of our zombies, we have a way to punish them just by them trying to kill us. Their whole game plan of playing these Field of the Deads, making a bunch of zombies, we can just ding them in the face with our Gem Palm Polluters and just kind of win the game for free. Even if they get rid of all the creatures on our side of the battlefield, we can basically kill them with their own creatures. So Gem Palm Polluter, not only a really, really fantastic zombie tribal payoff, but just really well positioned in the format right now. So, but all in all, we're just a super aggressive tribal deck, playing our Lords, playing our 1-drops, just smashing them for a bunch of damage, draining our opponent out with Gem Palm Polluter, and that's gonna be fast enough to beat most decks in the format. So in our mana base, mostly just swamps. We got the cool Jumpstart swamp art, so that's pretty nice. And then we have a couple If Near Dead lands, so these come into play untapped, which is really, really important for a tribal aggro deck like ours. But we can, if we flood out, we can tap this, pay 4 mana, sacrifice a desert, which is usually just going to be the If Near Deadlands itself, and then put 2 -1/-1 counters to target creatures. So it gives us a little bit of removal in our main deck. Our only other like real removal in quotation marks is the -1/-1 counters from Festering Mummy. So in the main deck, we're just being like as aggressive as we can be. No real removal. We have the Thought Seizes to deal with like wraths and stuff, but we're just hoping to hit our opponent with enough damage early game that we don't really need removal, and we can just drain them out with his polluters in the end game, or get through with Death Touchers with Death Baron to finish things out. And in the sideboard is where we have our real removal. Like we have 4 copies of Disfigure, 2 copies of Eliminate, we have 3 copies of Duress against control decks, we have 2 copies of Soul Guide Lanterns for any graveyard-based decks, 2 copies of Gifted Aetherborn against really burn decks that the life gain is good against, and then 2 copies of Virulent Plague against any sort of a token deck. Technically, we can bring it in against like the Field of the Dead decks to shut down all their zombie tokens, but to be honest, we can just beat Field of the Dead decks like straight up, just thanks to our Gem Pomp Lid. We don't really want to take the zombies off their side of the battlefield, but we can sideboard it in if we want to, or if we're going against like a Young Pyromancer deck, we can sideboard it in and get rid of their tokens. So there's a few token decks running around right now that it's pretty good against. But all in all, pretty straightforward deck, pretty powerful deck. Just trying to put a bunch of zombies in the battlefield and have a bunch of payoffs for all those zombies. And yeah, we'll jump into the gameplay here in a second. We will have a section at the end of the video where I talk about potential upgrades. There's definitely upgrades you can make with this deck. There's a few 1 mana rare zombies that are just pretty much strict upgrades to stuff like, you know, Foulmire Knight and Lilliana Stewart. So we'll talk about that at the end of the video, but this budget deck should be pretty good against most of the format just as it is. And yeah, so let's jump into some gameplay now. So on to game 1. Alright, playing against King D Rule, and I don't think we can keep this hand. These don't really do any, like, we want these sort of after we build up our board, but just having them as our first play of the game is pretty bad, so we're gonna mulligan. Oh my god. Well, we'll keep this. We'll go down to Swamp. Didn't mulligan into a much better. I do think this is better than what we had, but not by much. Oh my god. Alright, we are gonna run out the Crypt Breaker because we gotta play things a little risky. We're hoping to draw like a Lastotep Reaver here and start drawing some cards, and then we can follow that up with a Death Baron. Opponent just removes our Crypt Breaker. That sucks, but okay. I don't know what our opponent's on, team or something. Pass a turn, make a zombie with our Crypt Breaker, and or cycle our Gem Pomp Looter, I suppose, if they do like a Wrath or something. I don't know what our opponent's on exactly. Team or something. Temple of Abandon, sure. This does show the power of Crypt Breaker, though. We have pretty much nothing else going on, but we're still going to be able to make a zombie here and follow that up with a Death Baron for a pretty aggressive start. Sure. Alright, we will make a zombie, discard If Near Deadlands. Oh, Lastotep Reaver. We could Lastotep Reaver and draw a card instead of playing our Lord here. Yeah, I think we'll do that. We don't get in that much more damage just by playing our Lord. We'll play Lastotep Reaver, we'll draw a card and see if we hit a 1-drop. So tap, tap, tap. We did draw a 1-drop, and, well, it tapped us a little bad, but that's okay. Get him for 2. And now we got a big board. We can like Gem Pomp Polluter them for 5. Pretty ridiculous. Okay, opponent's on a Field of the Dead deck. Okay. Yeah, I guess they're just running cards like Thornwood Falls just to give them more lands. We gotta expect they're running some Wraths main deck, so how do we want to handle this? We can Death Baron and hit him for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Put them dead at Gem Palm. We could also just draw a card. I think we're gonna, yeah, let's get him as low as we can get him here. So if they Hour of Promises here, this is the matchup we wanted, because if they Hour of Promise, like, this is the thing, even if they wipe the board here, you know, say they have Storm's Wrath and they just kill all of our creatures. Sweltering Suns, sure, they kill our creatures. Well, their game plan now is to make a bunch of zombies. We can just Gem Palm Polluter them out of the game, so it's not actually that bad. Getting in all the damage we could there seems like a good idea. Follow this up with Taskmaster and get back our Duder here, Crypt Breaker, on the following turn. Oh my gosh, this is Steward of Elements. Alright. That's a card I haven't seen. That's a card I haven't seen played, but it's actually pretty good. It's out of Amonkhet. Basically, it can tick up by 2 to scry 2, and then it can -0 to look at the top card and put it into play if it's less than or equal to the counters. So basically, what it's going to do here is usually put a land into play, because you can 0 it, and if it's a land on top, you always hit it, even if you only have 1 counter on Nissa. We do have some pressure for her, although honestly, we're probably just going to go at our opponent's face instead of pressuring the Nissa. Our dream draw here is probably a land, just so we can go attack with Taskmaster to get back our Crypt Breaker, keep up the pressure. Alright, opponent's going to put something on top. Either a 3-drop. Okay, Elvish Rejuvenator is actually pretty good. Eventually, though, our opponent's going to start making zombies, which is actually good for us. That's their game plan, but that's what we're set up to beat. Alright, sure. Opponent keeps getting lands, making zombies. We just got to get in a little bit more damage here, and we may just drop the Death Baron next turn just to get in some damage, although they'll probably just chump. Yeah, make another zombie. Alright, so we play the Festering Mummy. I guess, if our opponent does something, we can always just Gem Palm Polluter them at instant speed. We want there to be as many zombies on the battlefield as possible. Alright, Growth Spiral, sure. So we're just going to hold back, see if they make a bunch of zombies. They have the capacity to make 8 zombies here. We've already got 2 on our side, 2 on their side. Sure. Escape to the wild, sure, sure, sure. They make another zombie. Oh, they're pretty close to dead. Yep. Another zombie. So they're at 6. And that's 7. Alright. We got them dead here. And I think in response, we're going to Gem Palm Polluter them. Before they're allowed to draw a card. Hit our opponent. And yeah, that's game. Alright, so that's what we are... that's what our deck is set up to do. Oh god, that's funny. That's what our deck is set up to beat. These Field of the Dead decks, we just wreck them. Because Gem Palm Polluter counts all the zombies on the battlefield, it just destroys our opponent. So, do we want to change anything? I don't think so. I think our main deck's pretty good against this already. We could go like Duress to go after the Wraths, I guess. Maybe we go up like a couple Duresses. Maybe 3. 3 Duresses is probably fine. Go down to Devotees, and go down maybe a Festering Mummy isn't that great against them, and run it like that. Alright, up against King D-Rule for game 2 here. And pretty much the matchup we want to be in. I guess we keep this. We don't have, any card draw, but we do just have a pretty solid start here. So we'll go Diregraph Ghoul. We don't really got a Thoughtseize turn 1. There's nothing they can do on turn 2 that we're super afraid of. Alright, and... yeah, I think we just go Lazotep Reaver here. Yeah, Lazotep Reaver's fine. Hit our opponent for 2. We can Thoughtseize him next turn. If they have... I doubt they'll just use like a Sweltering Suns on our 3 creatures here. Okay, Elvish Rejuvenator, sure. So next turn we can go like Thoughtseize plus Foulmire. Well, okay. We're not going to just play the Lord here because they probably have a Sweltering Suns in hand. Well, they don't. Okay. Well, I guess we take the Escape? Oh, we'll take the Escape, I guess. We don't really care if they Hour of Promise, because we can just Gem Palm Polluter them again. So we'll just play this Eternal Taskmaster, get in for 3. Next turn we can play a Lord. Pass turn. We might just have the fair win here. Opponent, I guess, can pop the Blast Zone to kill the 2-drops if they want to, but that's pretty slow and pretty bad. I'm guessing they just play the Elvish Rejuvenator here, try to get up to... wow, okay. Yeah, we'll just Death Baron. I mean, we just looked at their hand. They only have 1 card draw here, so I don't think they have a Wrath in hand. So we're just going to run out the Death Baron. Maybe they're just planning to tick up the Blast Zone here. Yeah, okay. They're just going to go after the 2-drops. But that is pretty slow. We get to hit them for a big chunk of damage here, and we have this Gem Palm Polluter, again, that if they even try going for their main game plan, they're just going to die. So we'll see what they do. If they take a whole turn and go down a land here just to kill our 2-drops, we've still got Diregraph Ghoul, we still got our Lord. Oh, they drew the Sweltering Suns. Alright. Well, that was a pretty good draw for him off the top. Okay. Yeah, I think we go Foulmire Knight. We're just going to put a bunch of dudes on the battlefield. Foulmire Knight, Diregraph Ghoul, and we'll just duress the Growth Spiral out of their hand. We're actually fine with them Hour of Promising, to be honest. If they want to make a bunch of zombies, we just kill them, right? They're already at 8 life, so if their game plan here is just to go Hour of Promise, make some zombies, we're more than okay with that. We just don't want them to draw into more Wraths to pretty much Wrath themselves. We kill them with their zombies faster than they kill us with their zombies. Sure, go ahead. Hour of Promise. Making some zombies. Okay, making a couple of zombies. Yeah, there goes our graveyard, sure. Foulmire Knight. Yeah, I guess we just pass the turn. plan on drawing a card with Foulmire Knight on their end step. I guess maybe we should have drawn a card on our turn in case we hit a swamp. Elvish Rejuvenator, sure. I mean, if they make a bunch of zombies this turn, we can just kill them. So, I don't know what their plan is here. They're just gonna kill us. Okay, they're up to. There's 5 zombies on the battlefield. Okay, maybe 6 now. 6 zombies on the battlefield, sure. We've got them dead. Alright, hit us for 2. Hit us for 4. Sure. No blocks. Foulmire Knight, draw a card. Ooh, Death Baron's pretty good. Here we can just go... Let's see, so there's... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can't quite kill them with Gem Palm Polluter. I guess we just go... just go Foulmire Knight and pass the turn. And if they make even 1 zombie, we can just kill them at instant speed. And if they don't make any zombies, then we can survive this turn, play our Death Baron, and maybe Gem Palm Polluter them if we draw a land. Oh, Uro's actually... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Uro is actually the perfect draw for our opponent here because it gains them life. Wow, yeah, no other card in their deck really matters, but Uro does. Alright, so that gives them 3 more life, sure. And Escape to the Wilds. Alright. Sure. Opponent hits us. We take it. Yep, no blocks. We take the damage. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on the battlefield. Do we just have to cycle Gem Palm Polluters and hope we hit another Gem Palm Polluters? I think we do. I think we're at the point, because they're going to get back Uro next turn and gain even more life. I think we have to hope to hit a second Gem Palm Polluter. I think that Uro may have saved our opponent. Alright, Festering Mummy. Swamp. Can we survive a turn? I don't think we can. Alright, well, we'll scoop it up. Our opponent... Yeah, Uro saved them at the last possible second. Alright, okay. Do we want to change anything? I don't think so. I think we just run it back. We got pretty unlucky there. Our opponent top-decked a Sweltering Suns the turn before we had them dead, and then top-decked an Uro the turn before we had them dead again. So, our opponent had just the right draws to survive there. But well, let's go into Game 3, see if we can get them with our Gem Palm Polluter. Alright, Game 3. And... ugh. I think we got a mulligan this one. Alright, this is better. Go down a Foulmire Knight, I think. Play a Swamp. Play a Digraph Ghoul. Pass turn. We got the same game plan as last time. We're going to just run out the last Step Reaver, try to keep pressure on our opponent, and then duress them before we run out the Death Baron. Try to get the Wrath out of their hands. Yeah, Blazatep Reaver. Attack our opponent for 2. Pass turn. We're all about this early game damage, because eventually they're going to have a Wrath. I guess we got to duress. I don't think we can run out our Lord here. Wow, all they have is an Escape into the Wilds. Well, that does make me wish we ran out our Lord. But we know that they don't have any removal or Wraths in hand, so they're going to be top-decking again. Next turn we can run out the Lord and get in a bunch of damage. Yep. Rejuvenator, sure. Okay, Lord of the Accursed is pretty good. I think better than Death Baron, because it does survive like a Cry of the Cranarian if they brought that in. Alright, opponent's just going to chump. Take some damage. We have them dead next turn if they don't have a Wrath. If they do top deck a Wrath this turn, it's a little sad, but we can go back on the Gem Palm Polluter plan. They can like just crack this Blast Zone just to kill the Digraph Ghoul, I guess, but we have a 0 CMC, a 1 CMC, a 2 CMC, and a 3 CMC, so they don't have anything good to do with this Blast Zone. It's just going to be a 1-for-1 no matter what they do. I guess that technically does keep them alive, though. If they crack the Blast Zone here just to kill the Digraph Ghoul, they are technically alive. We'll see, though. We may have just been too quick for him this game. Alright, what you got? Hour Promise. Alright, so they can make some zombies here, but pretty sure we can still just kill him. I think the Gem Palm Polluter is going to get the job done, because we can Gem Palm Polluter, hit him for... Let's see how many... They're going to make 2 zombies here. So we can hit him for... Actually, do they even have enough land types to make zombies? Because they have 2 of these Ketria tire. Yeah, I guess they just lose. Okay. Alright, well that was even easier than I thought. But even if they had enough land types there, they were super mega dead because we could have just... they would have made 2 zombies. We could have cycled Gem Palm Polluter, hit them for the 2 zombies they had, the 4 zombies we had, that's 6. Then we attack with everything. We can even use Lord of the Accursed to give everything menace, so they're only going to be able to block 1 thing, and then we get in for at least 6 more damage. So yeah, our opponent was super mega dead, no matter what they did there. They had to top deck a Wrath again, and they didn't do it. So yeah, this is like the best deck in the format, the most played deck in the format, and it being a really good matchup for us is pretty awesome, because that means we get to cycle this Gem Palm Polluter at pretty much any point in the game and kill them. The only way they have out is Uro gaining them life, and they were able to piece that together last game, but I think more often than not, we're like just going to crush this deck. So I also don't know how much longer this deck will stay legal, because it is pretty busted. It's pretty... Field of the Dead just should not have come back to the format. They should have just left this card banned. I don't know what the idea was. I don't know what the thought was, that like, oh, the format's great, but you know what it really needs? This card that lets you win without actually doing anything. What if you could just ramp and that's it? Like, that's all you do. You don't have to do anything else. Every card in your deck is a good draw, because all you're doing is putting lands into the battlefield. So if you draw lands, it's good. If you draw spells, it's fine, because those just go grab more lands. So it's just a card that it's just badly designed, I think. This is just a card that should have never been made, and they wisely took it out of the format previously, but then added it back for, I have no idea, but I'm sure it's on its way back out again soon. Anyway, we have a good matchup against it, so we don't care that much. But eventually this deck won't be here anymore. But it is sweet that we just get to kind of crush it when other people have problems, so sweet. Alright, playing some budget zombies up against IE Crayons in Historic, and let's see what our opponent's on. Well, they're not going to find anything with that Duress. Main deck Duress is a little bit of a risky play, and our opponent got a little punished for it. So here we can go Cryptbreaker into Lazotep Reaver and immediately start drawing cards. So not bad. Lazotep Reaver is a really good combo with Cryptbreaker. Okay, and we will go, yeah, we're going to do just that. Lazotep Reaver, and pass turn, no attacks. 1 point of damage on our opponent isn't worth missing a card draw here, so we'll see what our opponent's on. I'm not really sure. Red, black, something. Could be a control deck, could be... I mean, if you're running main deck Duress, kind of got to be a control deck, I think. Otherwise, you can't really count on it whipping like it did here. Alright, Bonecrusher Giant, sure. Still not really sure what our opponent's doing. Still could be a control deck, though. Alright, opponent kills our card draw. Here we're just gonna... We could run out Reaver, but we don't get a token out of it. But I think it's still fine. We're gonna run out Reaver. Run out Diagraph Goal. Put ourselves in the best position if we top deck a Lord here. Opponent might just run out the Bonecrusher. And if so, we're still in really good shape if we draw a Lord. Especially our Death Touch Lord. That's probably the best draw we could have at this point. Okay. Bonecrusher Giant, sure. Festering Mummy isn't really what we wanted, so we're gonna go Foulmire Knight, draw a card. Liliana's Devotee is pretty good. So we're gonna go... I think we're just gonna go Festering Mummy. And we could potentially get in here. We would lose like our Diagraph Ghoul, but we would hit our opponent for 4. Probably not worth it. We'll wait until we have at least this Devotee on the battlefield so we get in some more damage before we just start throwing creatures at it. Kroxa, alright. That's not really close to actually flipping. I think we just throw away the land here. We're not worried about our opponent out damaging us, really. Maybe our opponent is on like a Luminous Broodmoth combo deck, potentially? I don't really know. It's hard to say. Or just some sort of tempo deck. Alright, so here we are going to go Devotee. If our opponent wants to like Lightning Bolt the Devotee, that's okay. We'll end up losing a creature for no real great value off of it, but that's alright. So Devotee are kind of a Lord. Not really a Lord, but kind of halfway a Lord. Go to combat. Attack with everything. Opponent lightning strikes the ghoul instead of the lord. Interesting. Okay. Still hit our opponent for a good chunk of damage. And yeah, we just run out the Foulmire Knight, I guess. Pass turn. We had one more. If we had one more mana there, we could have just done nothing and made a zombie token. But okay, this is a young Pyromancer deck. Okay, so let's see. They're still pretty far away from the Croxa, but they could just go like shock, make a bunch of 1/1s here, and that'd be not great for us. Oh, another Devotee. Okay, we're gonna. Well, yeah, we're gonna do it. Devotee. You got another removal spell, opponent. Go to combat. Attack with everything. Oh, shouldn't have attacked with the Devotee. That was a mistake. But I guess we at least get some more damage through in that case, so that's alright. Let's see, how bad does this go? Well, they're already going to block, so at least they're not going to make any tokens to block with, so that's something. Okay. Alright. Opponent does get to eat our Devotee, but we get in a lot of damage there, and yeah, we'll just run out the Festering Mummy. Keep the train a-comin'. What you got, opponent? You got a way to deal with this. Getting back Croxa doesn't do it. Alright. Okay, so we just kind of aggroed our opponent out there. Our opponent, I guess, is just on some sort of like red-black control deck or something. I'm not really sure. Duress doesn't seem particularly good. We can grab like removal spells out of their hand, but I don't think that's really worth it. We could go like Soul Guide Lantern to shut down their graveyard, I guess. If they're running young Pyromancers, they're probably running stuff like Claim to Fame to pull the Pyromancers back and get a couple tokens. Could just be like a red-black sacrifice deck as well, which is also... yeah, we'll go up like a couple Soul Guide Lanterns, and I don't think we're going to go up... Maybe Disfigures... We'll go up a couple Disfigures, not all four. We don't want to dilute our game plan too much here, so we're just going to go down... Maybe the Lilliana Stewart and the Foulmire Knights aren't super great, and maybe one of the Taskmasters too, and run it like that. We don't want to dilute our plan too much, you know, by bringing in sideboard, because we do kind of just need a critical mass of cheap zombies to draw cards off of. So, you know, you got to be kind of particular about what we bring in and why. Okay, well, this is kind of a slow hand, but we can just go like Thoughtseize into Taskmaster into Death Baron, and that's not bad. Yeah, so we're just going to run out the Thoughtseize first, try to take something important out of our opponent's hand. So Dreadheart, Arcanist, Croxa... Okay, I guess we take the Arcanists. We could also take the Lightning Strike, and they don't really have anything to do at the moment. Yeah, we'll take the Lightning Strike, I think. They have an Arcanist either way, so we're not going to be able to take them off of Arcanist entirely. Arcanist is something we can't kill with the Disfigure, so that's maybe a point against bringing the Disfigures in. I think I'm just going to go... Taskmaster? Because Taskmaster can actually get through this Arcanist if they just leave it on defense. We can run out the Death Baron. I guess Death Baron means anything kind of gets through the Arcanist, but we're still going to do it like this. If we draw another 1-drop next turn, we can go like Festering Mummy, Crypt Breaker, and the 1-drop instead of doing our Lord, if we decide to do that. Sure, opponent gets in. Well, we're just going to run out the... Yeah, we're just going to run out the Death Baron. Start getting our beat down on. Hit our opponent for 3. Pass turn. We would like to... Okay, Young Pyromancer. Sure. Not very good against a Death Toucher, thankfully. Lord of the Accursed. Alright, so we're going to go Crypt Breaker, Lord of the Accursed, go to combat, attack for 4. Just going to draw a card off this Crypt Breaker. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so we just kind of destroyed this this red-black Young Pyromancer deck. Not too bad, not too bad. Opponent, I mean, you kind of see that we're taking advantage of the meta a bit with this deck, because our opponent had stuff like main deck Duresses to kind of deal with the like Ugins and stuff running around the format, to deal with the Hour of Promises, and our deck is trying to, 1, really hate on those Hour of Promise decks, and 2, just kind of take advantage of everybody trying to fight them. We can kind of sneak through with this weirdly good strategy in the meantime. So yeah, not too bad. All right. Alright, playing some budget zombies against the Tyrant Hipster, and okay. Not a super explosive hand or anything, but we do get a... Probably just gonna run out the Diregraph Ghoul here. Next turn we can Festering Mummy plus Thoughtseize. Start putting some damage on the board. 1 mana 2/2, not many tribes have access to this, although it does have the downside of coming into play tapped. Ooh, Crypt Breaker, that changes things. Now we're gonna go Festering Mummy, Crypt Breaker, and start drawing cards instead. No tax. Yeah, so we're probably gonna take a bit on this Thoughtseize. Thought Erasure, sure. Well, see what they take. They take the Thoughtseize, so be it. If they take the Death Baron, that's a little sad. Alright, they take the Thoughtseize. Do they have something like Cry in the Carnarium? They could, and it would suck if they did. Okay, Lord of the Accursed helps with that, because that's something that doesn't die to Cry the Carnarium. But combat, attack, we are going to just keep drawing cards. Pass turn. Just to offset the removal spells. If a control deck isn't able to 1-for-1 you, it's in a lot worse shape. Alright, opponent's going to grasp, we will draw. Because control deck is all about 1-for-1ing you in the early game, and then eventually turning that into a win. Oh wow, another Crypt Breaker's fantastic. So, Crypt Breaker, Lord of the Accursed. Go to combat, attack and attack. Do we want to hit? Yeah. Attack and attack, and we'll draw one more card, and next turn we got him dead. So they need Languish here, specifically. Yep, and they don't have it. Alright. So we're up against a control deck. We just ground them out with our Crypt Breakers there. If they can't 1-for-1 you in a control deck, that is pretty bad, because that's pretty much the whole game plan. 1-for-1 you and then eventually draw some cards once they stabilize. So our opponent is on control. We'll go up to Duresses. That's probably it. We could also go up to Soul Guide Lantern if we wanted to attack like Escanta, but I don't think it's worth it. I think we just want to be faster than them flipping their Escanta. If they get to the point where they flip their Escanta over, we probably have already lost. Probably at a very small % chance to win at that point. Could go up to Gifted Aetherborn, I suppose, just as a kind of a problematic threat, but I think we'll just go up the Duresses. Go down, let's say the Festering Mummies seem pretty bad. They just don't have anything to put -1/-1 counters on, and run it like that. Alright, and yeah, we'll keep this. Don't have our best card in the matchup, which is Crypt Breaker, as we saw last game, but we are still just gonna, yeah, Lilliana Stewart. Next turn, if we start drawing lands, we might just kind of do the aggro turn here, just go, you know, Lazotep Reaver into Lord of the Accursed. Otherwise, if we don't start drawing lands, we can go Lazotep Reaver into, you know, Foulmire Knight plus Thoughtseize. Alright, now go to combat. Attack our opponent. Play Lazotep Reaver. All of these threats suck to use a removal spell on, so... Okay, they're just going to cycle instead. That's fine. Does our opponent have the Cry of the Carnarium? They do. Okay, that's fine. Oh, Thoughtseize is pretty nice. So we're going to go... I guess we Thoughtseize first, actually, in case there's two things we want to take. Well, Thoughtseize, there's another Cry, a Grasp of Darkness, and a Direfleet Daredevil. I guess Direfleet gets to cast our Thoughtseize if we don't take it, so we'll take the Direfleet first, then play the Foulmire Knight. Pass turn. Would like to draw a land here for these Lords of the Accursed. Crypt Breaker's not bad. So we can go Crypt Breaker plus Foulmire Knight here, but then it just gets cried. So I think we're going to go Thoughtseize, take a card from our opponent's hand. But Devil, Grasp of Darkness, and Cry. We're going to take the Cry here. The rest of them are just 1-for-1 removal. Go to combat. Attack our opponent. Play the Foulmire Knight. Pass turn. Yeah, opponent's got removal for days. Nicol Bolas, alright. Lord of the Accursed is down. Crypt Breaker is pretty good. We will play Crypt Breaker. Play Crypt Breaker. And draw a card. See if we can draw a land. No land. Alright. We'll get in for 1 point of death touching damage. Okay, okay. Opponent gets in. Hits us for 4, sure. Land is good. Alright. Yeah, we'll go Lord of the Accursed. Wow, opponent Sinister sabotages it. We're actually okay with this, so... Yep. They leave it on top, which has gotta mean a Wrath, so we're gonna go Crypt Breaker, tap, tap, tap. Ugh, another Diagraph Ghoul isn't what we wanted to see at all. Yeah, we might just die to this Nicol Bolas. We haven't drawn super well here. We struggled a bit on mana, and opponent has had threats that line up pretty well. Okay, so they're just gonna enter the God Eternals? Sure. That's not especially bad. Doesn't really change anything. We have Death Touchers on the ground to deal with this 4/4, so... Okay, we'll go Diagraph Ghoul, Diagraph Ghoul, and pass turn, no attacks. I don't know if we can outrace this Nicol Bolas now though. Might just be too fast. They're at 20, we're at 2 now. Sure, we'll block with a Death Toucher. Okay. Draw a card. Go down to 1. Duress. Yeah, we don't have any way to get the Nicol Bolas off the battlefield, though. Opponent do another Enter the God Eternal, sure. None of this matters if we don't... yeah. Oh, we didn't draw one. Alright. So opponent had the removal that lined up well that game, so... Nicol Bolas does make things a little more complicated. We just don't really have a way to deal with it, is a problem. Like, we can bring it Disfigures, and I guess we beat it in combat, but I doubt they're ever going to actually block with it. They're just going to try to kill us with it while they remove our threats. Maybe Gifted Aetherborn's a little bit better, because it does let us... It's pretty hard for them to race that with Nicol Bolas, the life gain. So we'll actually bring in the Gifted Aetherborns here as well, and go down the Devotees, I think, and try it like that. Alright, this time we get to go first, and okay. Pretty bog average hand, but we will keep it. We do have a couple Lords. If our opponent doesn't have super good lineups here, we can go Lord of the Accursed, which protects us a bit from the looming threat of Cry the Carnarium. Lord of the Accursed itself doesn't die to Cry, and it boosts some of our other creatures out of the range of Cry. And Eternal Taskmaster is already out of the range of Cry, so that's pretty good. Okay, Crypt Breaker's pretty good too. I still think we Lord of the Accursed this turn. Well, Crypt Breaker, when we can like sneak that in alongside a Death Baron. Alright, opponent just Grasp of Darkness, that's fine. Pass turn. If we draw a land here, we can like get back our Lord of the Accursed and also play the Crypt Breaker. Although, I guess at that point we won't have 3 untapped zombies, so... by get back, I mean get back with Eternal Taskmaster. Narset. Alright.
No one is more prepared than me.
Sure. Let's see what they get off the top. This is Sinister Sabotage. That's no big deal. So I think we just Death Baron here because we... Yeah, we're just going to Death Baron here. Kill the Narset and hit our opponent for 2. Let's see. Do they have a Cry of the Carnarium? If they do, they get to 2-for-1 us, but at least we get to keep the Taskmaster. Alright, just a Nicol Bolas, sure. Discard the Diagraph Ghoul. Okay, here we will... Death Baron actually helps a lot on this board, so we're going to go Crypt Breaker, Diagraph Ghoul, hit our opponent for 3. Our opponent have a Languish. If they block, okay, they block, so they have a Languish here, which isn't great for us. And pass turn. Alright, so now we get Languished, which sucks, but we do get to draw a card in response, so... Not the absolute worst thing in the world. Or maybe they just actually traded, I guess it's possible. Okay, they're going to enter the God Eternal, so in response, we'll draw a card. They actually went after the Death Baron, because I guess the Death Touch is pretty inconvenient for them. But little do they know, we have another Death Baron waiting in the wings over here. Oh, and it lands perfect, because now we can go Death Baron, Opponent, it tapped us a little, unfortunately, but that's okay. Go to combat, attack and attack. Hit our opponent for 5. Alright, opponent takes 5. And pass turn. Opponent's got to keep stringing ways to stay alive together here. Well, the fact that they put that into play on tap probably isn't a good sign. Nicol Bolas, alright. Well, we have nothing to discard. Opponent passes, sure. Draw a card. So they pretty obviously have removal for a Death Baron here, and they're going to kill our creatures in response to the attack. So what we're going to do is just attack with the creatures that have Death Touch anyway. So go to combat. Attack and attack. They can kill our Death Baron here, but these two still have Death Touch. Okay, they're going to kill the Crypt Breaker instead. That's fine. So, draw a card. Tap, tap, tap. Get in for 2. Wow, okay. Opponent just trades in their creature. Sure, we'll play the Taskmaster, and next turn we can start getting back our creatures. Do they have a Wrath? The Scarab God. Well, that's not a Wrath, and it still dies to Death Touch. So I think do we just win if we play Death Toucher here? Yeah, okay. Play our Death Baron, and that should be game. No matter what they block here. Yeah, okay. Whew, alright. Okay, so we just out-aggroed Control deck here, Grixis Control. They did get us good in Game 2. They just had a removal that lined up pretty well along the curve in Game 2. Like, that's typically how they're going to beat us. It's just if they draw, like, the right counters and the right removal and the right sweepers at the right time. You know, if they drew, like, if they drew their Cry the Carnarium right now, for instance, it would do nothing, right? We've got all of our creatures have outpaced -2/-2. But on the right board, Cry the Carnarium is still going to mess us up. Even if we do have, like, one Death Baron, we're still going to get messed up pretty well by Cry the Carnarium, because Death Baron will get -2/-2, it'll die, it'll drop off the buff from all the rest of our creatures, which will probably then die. So, all in all, we did pretty well. In Game 1, we just kind of destroyed them, and then Game 2 here, they just were not able to keep up. We were able to keep dropping threats, and really, we had these If Near Dead lands waiting in the wings, so we could have just, even if we didn't draw any action there, we could have just started putting -1/-1 counters on their creatures to shut them down. So, all in all, Eternal Taskmaster is going to start getting us back to stuff too, so we were in pretty good shape. Sweet. Budget Zombies getting it done. Okay, up against Frozen Prawn, playing some budget zombies. Oh yeah, and this hand looks great. We got Crypt Breaker plus a bunch of 1-drops. That's pretty much exactly where we want to be. We do need to just run out this Steward instead of Thought Seizing turn 1, because we want to be in a position where we can go Crypt Breaker plus Festering Mummy next turn and draw a card immediately in case our opponent has removal. So we're going to have to wait a couple turns on this Thought Seize, but that's okay. Okay, well, that changes things. Now we're probably, well, okay. Huh. Yeah, now we're probably going to go Thought Seize our opponent. They have Young Pyromancer, Heartless Act, and a Thought Seize of their own. I guess we take the Pyromancer, and yeah, we'll run out the Crypt Breaker. If they want to use their 2-mana removal spell on our Crypt Breaker, that's okay. We got another one. Alright, they're going to Thought Seize instead. They may just want to take the Crypt Breaker so that when they kill our other Crypt Breaker, they're done with Crypt Breakers for a while. But we probably want them to take the Crypt Breaker. We probably want to keep the Lazotep Reaver here. So as early as next turn we can start drawing a bunch of cards. Try to outpace our opponent. Okay, they take the Reaver. Archfiend's Vessel. Alright. So that's the game plan. I think, yeah, we're going to Festering Mummy here. And we could Crypt Breaker and just start drawing cards. I guess that's what we do, rather than take the removal spell out of their hand, because we might, instead of taking the removal spell, we might want to just take the Lurrus out of their hand, but we will pass turn, start drawing cards. We actually should have drawn a card on our turn, because if we drew a Swamp there, we could play it and also Thought Seize. Yeah, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. We're not going to block this Archfiend's Vessel anyway, so really no reason not to draw a card there. We'll see if it ended up being a Swamp. Yeah, okay, we will tap, tap, tap. Draw a card. Okay, no Swamp, so nope, we weren't punished. We wouldn't have been able to do anything next turn anyway, or last turn anyway. Alright, now we actually got a better play. We can go Lord of the Accursed. We're still going to just draw cards, though. Sure. No tax. And our goal is to get them to Luris, put Luris into their hand, and then we can Thought Seize the Luris. Opponent's just gonna... Yeah, opponent's just gonna draw a card here, that's fine. Their removal doesn't line up super well when we can just keep drawing cards. Another Archfiend's Vessel, sure. And do they put the Luris? They do put the Luris in their hand. Alright, that's what we wanted to see. And we will draw a card. Tap, tap, and tap. Ooh, another Crypt Breaker's pretty good. And another Lord of the Accursed. We're actually going to just Thought Seize this turn, though. We definitely don't want them to untap with that Luris. Well, I guess they... No, they can't get the Luris back. Alright, so we're going to go... Crypt Breaker... And... do we want to see if we draw a card? Yeah, okay. We're going to draw a card and see if we get a land here. We haven't played a land this turn, right? I don't think we have. So we're going to tap... 1, 2, 3. Draw a card. Play Festering Mummy. Alright, and... Yeah, we'll attack. Sure. They can't get back... Yeah, that's fine. So the Archfiend's just going to die and they can claim it back to make a 5/5, but if that's all they're doing, we're gonna outpace that pretty quick. We can give our creatures, Oh, well, okay. Do a Thought Seize off the top. That's kind of... Alright, that makes me a little less happy about the exchange, but... Okay, opponent's gonna claim back their flyer. I'm expecting they fame it as well. Yeah, okay. Hit us for 7. Still should be able to outrace this, though. Especially with Baron. Pretty good draw. And attack with everything. Yeah, we should have him dead next turn. Alright. Opponent's got to top deck something pretty good not to be dead here. It's got to be like a Claim to Fame. Cling to Dust. Alright, well that definitely doesn't do it. So opponent draws a card. But no matter what they draw here, it's not going to be enough to get him out of this situation. So, yeah. Okay. So opponent is on kind of like a Reanimator deck. A Claim to Fame Reanimator, getting back those Archfiend's Vessels as big 5/5s. Eliminate does deal with the Archfiend, so we'll bring that in. And I guess the Soul Guide Lantern to attack the graveyard's pretty good. We could also take in the Disfigures to deal with the... Yeah, Disfigures to deal with Luris, and also Young Pyromancer seems pretty good. So we'll bring in a bunch of removal, essentially. Go down to the Devotees, go down to Taskmasters, go down... Lilliana Stewart seems pretty bad. And maybe not all the Disfigures. We'll go up 3 Disfigures and go down one of the Diagraph Ghouls. Go like that. Try to play more of a control plan here. I think we're going to keep this, as not great as it is. This might be a mistake. We'll find out, but their deck seemed extremely graveyard-centric, and being able to just shut that down with a Soul Guide Lantern. Well, and we get Thought Seize. So, now we're in much worse shape, but we can cycle the Chimpalm Polluter next turn. Yeah, that was the one. I guess being on the draw, maybe we shouldn't have kept this hand because they could turn one Thought Seize it away. Dreadhorde Arcanist. Alright. Well, we will Last Step Reaver. Pass turn. Opponent can just flash back their Thought Seize for free here. Young Pyromancer. Alright. So they have pretty much their ideal draw. They get to flash back this Thought Seize and also make a token Young Pyromancer, so pretty much where they want to be with their deck. Okay. No block. Let's see if we can draw a removal spell. Festering Mummy. Okay, well we're gonna go land, Festering Mummy, Chimpalm Polluter, cycle and ding our opponent in the face. And no attacks. What do you get, opponent? They can cast something and also... Okay, they're just gonna get back... They're just gonna get the Luris, which is fine. Pass the turn. We're gonna just Thought Seize that right out of their hand. Take the Luris. Play the Deadlands, which next turn we can start Deadlandsing their creatures. I think we actually kill the Pyromancer this turn. And pass a turn. Next turn we can put Deadlands, or we can crack the Deadlands and put the counters on their Dreadhorde Arcanist. I'm just going to Village Rites and draw a couple cards. That's pretty good. I'm glad we got rid of the Pyromancer before they could get another token off of that. Well, and now they get to claim it back. Alright. Are they going to Fame it? They can... I guess they can Fame and attack with the Arcanist to flashback Village Rites. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Sure. Yep. Drawing. If we want to... We could just kill this Dreadhorde Arcanist. Yeah, you know what? I think a token plus a Festering Mummy is worth getting the Dreadhorde Arcanist off the battlefield. We can use our If Near Dead lands elsewhere. When it runs out of Stitcher Supplier, sure. There's a Kroxa. Okay, Lord of the Accursed is pretty good. They can cast their... No, they can't cast their Kroxa quite yet, so... We have a choice here. We can either crack the If Near Deadlands, get rid of the Young Pyromancer, or we can play Lord of the Accursed. I guess we don't really get any damage anyway, so might as well just kill this Young Pyromancer. Sacrifice a Desert. Pass turn. Actually, we've lost this one. We'll go into the next one. We were just too slow. We probably shouldn't have kept that hand. Graveyard Hate is really good against them, but probably want all the Disfigures, actually. And, I mean, potentially Virulent Plague, although they only really have one token payoff, right? So, maybe go down one Eliminate, and I guess Eliminate just hits everything on their deck. Yeah, I guess we just go down to Ghoul and go down, I guess, the last Taskmaster and run it like that. Alright, let's see if we can have a little bit faster of a start. Last game we just got kind of discarded out of the game and couldn't really get back into it. Alright, and we will... Okay, I mean, if we draw a land here, this is a really good start. This is a little risky if we don't draw a land, but... if we do draw a land, we get to immediately start going off for their Crypt Breaker, which is pretty nice. We don't have any of our sideboard cards, but we can also start Thought Seizing away. Alright, opponent is mulliganing to look for their sideboard cards, it looks like. I think they mulliganed 2 times or 3 times, maybe. But really, if they find some sort of hate card, it's probably worth it. But we will run out the Crypt Breaker. Come on, land. Alright, opponent shocks us, sure. Ooh! Alright, well, we are gonna Thought Seize our opponent. Attack their hand, get rid of the Arcanist. Okay, can we draw a land? Ugh. We can't. Alright, well, we're gonna definitely lose if we just don't draw a land, ever. Ugh. Yep, opponent abrades the Crypt Breaker. And opponent's drawing lands, unfortunately. Yeah, that's probably gonna be game. We just, we managed to go 4 draw steps without hitting a land, so... Can't really win if that's our game plan. Opponent's just going to get their Loris here and start casting creatures out of the graveyard, so... Opponent Stitcher Suppliers. Puts a Kroxa in the graveyard. They have the land for it. Yeah, our opponents run really well. They've pretty much drawn exactly what they need, drawn all the lands they need, while we've drawn essentially 0 lands. Or not essentially 0 land, actually 0 lands, so... Pretty much the worst possible draws for us and the best possible draws for our opponent. Yeah. We will eat the Kroxa. I mean, if we're not going to draw a land, this is among the best things we could draw. And attack with Diagrackle. We probably should have attacked first, because if they have blocked with the Stitcher Supplier, we'd be pretty happy about it. Alright, if they cast the cat here, we're just going to crack the Lantern immediately. Claim. Alright, we will exile the graveyard. And they run out the lifelinker here. Sure. Well, getting rid of the graveyard was a pretty big boon. Oh my gosh, we are gonna just not draw lands, it seems like. Alright, play Festering Mummy, pass turn. How many turns can we go without drawing a land? We're now 12 cards deep. Alright, we will try to trade with this Loris if we can. Put a -1/-1 counter on it. Okay, opponent's gonna sack it, sure. We'd much rather them sack that and than sack their Stitcher Supplier. Wow. Okay, well, yeah. We are 13 cards deep and hit 1 land, so that's effectively the same as if we were running 4 lands in our entire deck. So not much we can do about that, but we're just going to scoop it up. Yeah, 1 land in the top 4th of our deck is going to be enough to beat us, unfortunately. But that's magic. Sometimes, yeah, we just hit the bad luck stick, unfortunately. But that's how it goes. Alright, so Zombie Tribal felt really well positioned in the format. This deck felt really great. I was really impressed by it. And we did just have some free I win cards against like the best decks in the format. So altogether, that just makes this deck feel like really awesome. But now we'll talk about potential upgrades. And finding upgrades for this deck is actually really easy. You probably don't even need my help. Just type in zombie, sort by rares, and you can figure out most of what I'm going to talk about here. So biggest upgrade is probably Dreadwander. So Dreadwander is a 1-mana 2/1 body. Enters the battlefield tapped, so a really good aggressive body. Is a zombie jackal, and then you can pay 3 mana, return it from the graveyard to the battlefield, but only if you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. And we will very quickly get to 1 or fewer cards in hand with this deck. Like we just vomit out our hands so quickly with all these 1-drops. So we're gonna very oftentimes be able to activate this. It's just some great recursiveness. It gives us a good aggressive body early, and if our opponent like wraths or something, it gives us a way to kind of dig back into the game as well, because we can just keep getting this thing back over and over and over again as a good aggressive body. And it being 1 or fewer cards in hand instead of 0 or fewer cards in hand is actually a pretty good upside for us as well, because oftentimes we'll be like holding on to a Gem Palm Polluter in hand. So the fact that we don't have to be completely hell-bent down to 0 cards is pretty good, and Dreadwander is just going to be a great upgrade in this deck. You can just slot out like the Foulmire Knights and the Vestring Mummies or something like that for some copies of Dreadwander, is going to be very good in this deck. Similarly, Graveyard Marshal is a pretty good zombie. It's a 2-mana 3/2, so again, a pretty good aggressive body. A little bit above the bar stats, better than you typically see at 2 mana. And it can pay 3 mana to exile a creature card from our graveyard to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So you might want to slot these out for the Taskmaster. Taskmaster is pretty sweet because you can get back Gem Palm Polluter multiple times with Taskmaster, which is pretty nice. But this would be another way to kind of capitalize on our graveyard. I actually don't know how many copies of Graveyard Marshal you want to run. It's not like the most powerful upgrade, so the answer might actually be 0, but I would at least try running a couple of them if you already have them in your collection. Murderous Rider would be a really good sideboard card. We probably don't want it in the main deck, but if there's a matchup where we just have to kill a creature or a planeswalker, having that on a tribal body is really, really nice. It's a little bit slow for what we want to be doing. We really want our 3-drops to be our lords, so we kind of like slam them on the battlefield, and even though they don't do anything immediately themselves, they are kind of already affecting the battlefield the turn they come down by buffing up all of our other creatures. Murderous Rider doesn't really do that. I mean, we do get to kill a creature, but we want to be super aggressive. So really we would want this in our sideboard, but having it as a sideboard option is very, very nice, and it means we can go after, if there's just threats that we need to kill, we have a way to kill them. It's probably just better than running like 4 copies of Disfigure. You know, running a few copies of Murderous Rider to add into our removal suite here would be pretty nice. And Lilliana's Mastery is another new card out of Amonkhet. It's a Zombie Lord, so a 5-mana enchantment, and it gives all of our zombies +1/+1. And when it enters the battlefield, it creates 2 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. So it's going to enter the battlefield and basically make 6/6 worth of stats and also pump up all our other zombies. We would need to shift our plans a bit if we were going into Lilliana's Mastery. It's a very powerful card. It's more rawly powerful than anything else our deck is doing. Like, we don't really have a way to catch up in this deck super well, outside of just like Crypt Breakering and getting cards back with Taskmaster. But this is kind of just such a rawly powerful card that if our opponent wraths our board and we follow that up by Lilliana's Mastering, we're gonna just like immediately be back in the game because it's just so much power put onto the battlefield by this one card. That said, we cannot just slot it into the deck we're currently running. This is going to need more lands in the deck than 21, because we want to be consistently getting up to 5 lands for Lilliana's Mastery. But it's another good new zombie tribal edition out of Amonkhet, and I think it's worth looking into. You would need to just rebuild the deck a bit, and similar to that is Liliana Untouched by Death. Really good zombie payoff card, and maybe we can run like as a 1-of or a 2-of in our deck, as it currently is. But if you did go kind of more mid-rangey zombies, a little bit more value-focused, she's just incredibly powerful. Just a removal spell, a way to drain our opponent out, and really her ultimate ability, in quotation marks, her -3, the ability to just recast a bunch of zombies out of our graveyard if our opponent wraths. It just gives us so much more survivability against decks with like wraths and removal spells and stuff like that. We're basically like sort of an aggro combo deck built as we are now, but if we wanted to shift more into mid-range, we could add some more lands, add some Liliana's Untouched by Death, add some Liliana's Masteries, and I think the deck would actually be really good too. So kind of a different way to take the deck. out of the sort of aggro combo focus. I think both of these cards are very, very powerful in that kind of deck, and if you just wanted to slot in like one copy of Lilliana into our current deck, it'd probably be okay. Again, 4 mana is a little bit much with 21 lands, but it is just very, very, very powerful, and it does allow us to kind of recover in ways that we can't currently, so something to consider for sure. And finally, just run 4 copies of Thoughtseize. Like, Thoughtseize is so ridiculously good. Every time we had it in this deck, we were happy to have it. Being able to strip the rats out of our opponent's deck, being able to disrupt their game plan long enough that our aggro bodies get to get in some more, it's just so ridiculously good to be able to take whatever we want out of our opponent's hand. And the 2 loss of life usually doesn't matter in this deck because we're typically more aggressive than anything we're going against. You know, if we're up against like Burn or something, we can sideboard it out, but in most other matchups, it's just basically 1 mana steal anything from your opponent's hand, and that is just devastating against so many decks. So 4 copies of Thoughtseize in this deck would just be fantastic. If that's the only upgrade you make, it's going to be a pretty fantastic upgrade. So yeah, can't really give Thoughtseize enough praises. The card is, I would say, the best card in the entire historic format. So if you can't go up to 4 copies, I would highly recommend you do so. And anyway, that's going to wrap it up for Budget Zombies. The deck felt really good as is. We talked about some upgrades, but Cryptbreaker is just a super fun card, to be honest. I had a really fun time with this deck. So anyway, this has been 2D. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I sure enjoyed playing, and I'll see you next time.